of Elnora and Edward Seagle, and we're talking about some of his early experiences, their early experiences at Sun Valley. And you were going to tell me about the slot machines?
The law to handle slot machines in this state could only be done in incorporated towns or villages.
Oh.
And so Sun Valley Incorporated, 1947. And to incorporate a town or a village, you must have a post office, you must have a fire department of some sort, volunteer or otherwise, you must have a police force. Well, we had all these things as a village, unincorporated, prior to 47. So it was easy. Promptly, we incorporated as a village, run by 5 trustees.
Oh, okay. And
one
who
of
were those people?
One of the trustees would be the chairman of the chairman of the board, or the mayor. So I was chairman of the board and the mayor. Vern Wynn Gray, Anita. Do you know Anita Gray?
I know.
Her husband. Do you know Wynn? Wynn was a member. Fez Taylor. Do you know Fez is a member? Myself is a member. And
Lola Pappy Rogers.
No, he couldn't be, although he run the place. It was too much close to the railroad.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Did you say Vern McClellan too, or was
No,
that?
no.
No, okay.
Clayton Stewart, do you know Stu?
Yeah, I know the name. And,
Clayton was the clerk, and he was a member. And who sat on the board was Ida Broadhurst.
Yeah.
Ida. George Nealon? I can't think right at the moment.
That's fine.
5. But anyway, I was the mayor. And as mayor, then we could have slot machines. We could have liquor bars, not bars, but package stores. Have a package store.
And that was because of the Idaho laws?
That's all Idaho laws.
Right.
And we could have 2 bars.
Oh my.
But we could move the bar license from one place to another, as long as it's on the same property.
Right.
Anyway, we had slot machine. The minimum fee on a slot machine was $125 each machine to the state. Minimum of $125. Minimum, you could have whatever. Minimum $125 to the county, and a minimum of $125 to your incorporated village. And so the railroad owning the places had to buy the slot machine, or all these licenses through me. Me being the mayor
Being
of
the
the village.
mayor.
What
my.
a mess. I mean, it was laughable, but it raised so much heck back in Omaha to certain ones of the auditing department, because there's a million things on the railroad.
And they're trying to figure out why a railroad is buying all of these slot machines.
They were. And where do you remit the money from them, see? You gotta remit. We got 14 machines all around Challenger Inn and the lodge. And the money comes in, although you made them as liberal as you possibly could manufacture them. And how do you remit the money? See, you got to remit the money to the Omaha office.
Did they make money for the company, or?
Slot machine?
Oh,
sure, they make money for anybody.
Yeah, that's why there's so many in Nevada. Everywhere you go. That is interesting.
Well, we had 2 bowling alleys, 2 alleys, and still have them. And they call it game room. And the funds, the remittance of all this money, it went in the game room fund. So you remit like as high as $50,000-$60,000 a month from the slot machine. Well, as far as Omaha was concerned, all they could think about, you only got 2 bowling alleys, it's in the game room fund. How in the hell can you make $50,000 a month on 2 bowling alleys? Well, that's a lot of explanation you got to
A
do.
lot of
You
games.
don't write a lot of stuff. You do write some things, but you can't write everything.
So those first years that Sun Valley was incorporated, it was pretty much just Union Pacific's Sun Valley that
100%.
had any
100%.
expenditures.
They owned all the property,
Mm-hmm.
except the lodge and the inn standing on. And they
Now,
wasn't about to want to sell it, one stick of property to anybody.
now, people who were working for Sun Valley at that time, where did they live? They lived on Union Pacific property?
We had some dormitories.
Mm-hmm.
We had, and still have, I think they had, in the Challenger Inn, one whole floor was girls.
Mm-hmm.
In the lodge basement, 2 wings in the lodge basement where their offices are now at present, was all dormitories.
Mm-hmm.
Third floor above the kitchen, present kitchen, was all rooms, administrative help.
Mm-hmm. What if a couple or a family wanted to buy their own property and build their own house to live here? Could they do that?
Only
Build it in
from,
Ketchum.
They would
only
build it in
Ketchum.
Ketchum. So when did Sun Valley actually become a city in a kind of a true
Like it is
respect?
now?
Like it is now.
After the Union Pacific sold it.
Oh,
To
okay.
Jan's,
And yet,
64.
as I recall, Averill Harriman said that one of the reasons he built the Harriman Cottage was that he wanted to encourage people to settle down there.
He did. He did.
Mm-hmm.
But there was talk about going to do this, going to do that, going to build houses up where the water tanks are on the hillside there, by just above the garage, you might know. Going to build little cottages. Oh, they was a big, very reasonable, like $4,000 and $5,000, long time pay. Railroad was strong for this for the employees, but then along comes some changes back in the headquarters. The railroad operators of the railroad never cared much for Sun Valley as an operation. They were railroad men. They passenger travel. They know selling the ticket and all that. And they never were too much in favor, from the president down, I'm sure. But you see, after Mr. Harriman, he fathered the idea and had arranged to have it built, then it's got to be turned over to somebody to handle it. So he turned it over to the railroad. He kind of stepped out quietly, still had a strong voice. He'd come out and whatever he wanted done, he got done, because he owned the railroad, but not in the operating, you know.
Mm-hmm. So with his slow, removal from the area, then this idea of having homes built around
Just
the
fell through
properties
there.
didn't exist.
They could buy land, and they bought property down here. The railroad did this. Ketchum, when Ketchum first started, way back in the 80s, the government owned all the land. And they set up and established a town of Ketchum due to the mining area. And they established a town site. And they plotted the lots in this Ketchum. I used to have the old map. And they were people that move in here, miners and that, just squat on the land, just squat it. There's plenty of room. Hell, everybody just move. And then they'd squat on this home site lots. Lots were 55 by 100, 55 by 120. And one street down here where the post office is so wide, streets were at the time 60 feet wide ordinarily. Some of them 120 feet wide, which that street is one of them.
Oh,
Only the one.
my.
They had big ideas, government mappers, stuff like that. So then along come the squatters would squat on it. Well, the county in those days was trying to get a little taxes money off it. You live on A lot, number 125 on this map. You were just out there on the prairie, but that was it. You owe us $1.25 for taxes last year. You owe us $2.50 2 years back taxes. So that they couldn't pay. They didn't have any money, I guess, or nothing. So the county would foreclose on that for tax title, and the county re-owned them, and they put them up for sale, and I'd come along and buy them for the $5, and then buy those for back taxes. So I squatted on. Well, all this got so cluttered up that when the Sun Valley Railroad came in and built Sun Valley, they got through Congress a law to quiet titles to all this township government-owned land, town site land. And all these lots they put up for auction, for sale, due to location. The minimum price, and I did have the paper for years, didn't I? They published it in the Haley paper, which is the legal paper of the county. Gonna have this auction. You could buy a lot, maybe you were squatted on it for 10 years before. You get clear title to it for $30 for that lot. The 40 for that lot. None of them over $50. No. The whole, about 90% of it, what you're looking at here.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I bet people by that time, seeing progress come finally, they were glad that they had a title to their land.
That's right.
Because you would have to have some legal basis for ownership.
But a lot of them couldn't
incoming
even
people.
afford the $30.
Oh, well,
It was
they
still Depression years.
worked for it. Mm-hmm.
When the UP built Sun Valley, which is in 1936, there must have been 400 carpenters on this job. And you as a carpenter, or any craftsman, but a carpenter's mainly, you as a carpenter, if you laid your hammer down for 5 minutes, you might get fired. And another carpenter right there. This is a fact. I know because I had nothing to do with the general contract. Well, I had a little something to do with the general contract. But I just floated around and watched as an observer, you might say, because I'm going to take over the job whenever it got built.
Mrs. Seagle, did you work for Union Pacific at this time?
No.
Or were you, and where did you and your husband live then?
We lived on the 3rd floor of the lodge when they first opened.
And where did you live?
And then, before they opened the lodge, we lived at Bald Mountain Hot Springs.
Oh, because I understand some people were put up in railroad cars and lived there.
Now, that was while they were building it. All the crew had to live in. They were either at Bald Mountain or down. Ed was in railroad cars till I came in.
The company furnished housing and feeding facility for the workmen, although they weren't their workmen. But we had a lot of UP employees in here, surveyors and engineers of all kinds. And the railroad forces built the ski lifts. They laid the water line. The general contractor built the lodge building. So we had a
variety of people.
I stayed in the bunk car for about 3 months. Wasn't no place else to go until I finally got.
When you were here then, did you do shopping in town? There must not have been very much in town.
There was one grocery store and Jack Lane Sheep Association Emporium, we always called it. The Griffiths had a little corner grocery store. I did most of my shopping there. He carried the fresh produce and had the meat market. If you wanted anything else, your closest shopping was Haley.
When did the businesses start to show the effect of having so many people come up to Sun Valley? Did the town boom overnight, or was it a...
Oh, no, it was
gradual,
slow. Because most of the people that came out in the first 2 or 3 years of Sun Valley basically stayed at Sun Valley. There were only 1 or 2 places that had food, and they'd come down occasionally and eat. The thing that brought them to Ketchum in those earlier days was the gambling. While it wasn't legal, it was something that was decided by the county.
Wide open
So
town.
it was wide open gambling.
Chris Daniel Club was built over here.
Right, where this building is now.
Big gambling casino. That's another story on as far as the town is concerned. But they always had it. the law, the state did this. If the county wanted gambling or wanted liquor, it was all right as long as they weren't nobody would complain about it. Well, in this county, nobody complained for years, and this went along that same way. When the Navy came in as a hospital, it was, we had about 6 places to gamble down in Ketchum at that time. And the captain, commanding officer of the Navy, had a meeting with all the owners that owned these gambling places. He said, I don't mind those boys having fun and losing their money and that, but he says, if I hear one word, you get them drunk to take your money, or you crooked gambling, I'll close it down, boycott the whole place. Nobody will come down. And they run it that way. Of course, all these joints were owned by old native guys. Lou Hill, Slady down here, where was his name. And I think his son's still around, Bob Ward.
Well, yeah, he still has the
Still
Slady's
has
Club,
it.
I think.
Anyway, they were all honest gambling. They really were. 'Cause like I say, you can, 2% will break you.
Yeah. Well, and before too, it had been so small town oriented that everyone that probably came in there to gamble was a friend of theirs.
Exactly.
So you wouldn't think of setting up something that wasn't on the level, I'm sure.
That's exactly right. You're exactly right. That's what you did.
I have a question about a few things, that I'm not clear on. One thing with the building of the lodge, everyone's always so amazed to find out that it's not wood, and they used a rough cut wood to make the impression. Was there any acid or any type of etching solution used with the wood that gave it that permanent color?
No.
No, it was
Shall I
from
tell
the
you
wood.
exactly how it was all done? It was a concrete building. The lumber was locally sawed at a sawmill called Flowers out here. Flowers sawmill, rough sawed. 1x12s was the siding. On the board, say, here's a board, like this. You put it up. To get that looked like, little dent in there all up. They laid another little board in that and put up the form. Now they come to pouring the concrete. Got reinforced concrete, 8 inches thick, those walls are. So they just go up like any building would with concrete. Great concrete. They had certain specifications. The railroad had written a lot of the specifications. The cement companies, every one of them, Portland Cement, all of them would come out to watch this job because it was the first big concrete job. Now you got it up, what are you going to do? How are you going to get those colors? Like that wood or say. So they had a firm, 2 old brothers, and they were old when the Sun Valley was built. They must have been in their late 60s. Had a secret process of doing that work. Really? Their names were Lamens. L-A-M-E-N-S. Lamens. California firm. They knew how to color concrete natural. And they had a little shop. What they use is natural earthen colors. That's Colorado brown. They would acid wash the building, the concrete. They'd practically do it in like that. I knew those old boys. They kind of liked me. Well, I had nothing, except I was responsible, will be eventually. And they had fellas that make these big buckets of this weak acid, muriatic acid, I'm sure it was, and etch just to get the lime off. And then they would apply these colors. The 2 or 3 coats would give it a deeper color. Light.
And did they know it was going to be permanent?
Oh yes, the color's just right in there.
It's almost like a stain.
Yeah.
It seeps right into the concrete.
Right.
But it had to be a special kind of thing
Yeah.
in order to do that, and they had secret.
Yeah,
Isn't that
yes,
amazing?
it was. It really was.
Mm-hmm. Why did Union Pacific build a cement building in the first place and not one out of wood?
Well, here we are up here all by ourselves, they're thinking. They want something that is fire resistant as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it came about. First, they were only going to build 2 stories to handle about 100 people. Just the center section that you see, just the center section. And then along comes 2 wings on this side, 2 wings over here.
Mm-hmm.
Northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest wings.
Mm-hmm.
And it took it up to 200 rooms.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Another mystery for me is on which mountain was the first chairlift built?
2 mountains.
There were 2.
Dollar Mountain,
Mm-hmm.
1 lift. Proctor Mountain, 1 lift. All built in the spring and summer of 1936.
And then when did they move the Proctor lift? And which mountain did they move that to?
Baldy.
Baldy. Now, Rude Mountain, did it have a lift?
I wrote a letter. Did you see the
Yes.
letter you got it?
Yes, and I want to, but I'd like to get it on tape if we can.
Well, Proctor Mountain was named after a skier back
Right.
east, Dartmouth, Coach Charlie Proctor.
Mm-hmm.
And he picked the site of Proctor Mountain Lift,
Mm-hmm.
just like Mr. Harriman wanted someplace for a pretty good skier and
Mm-hmm.
something to teach on. So
Mhm.
Dollar Mountain became the teaching
Mountain.
mountain because there's no trees on
Mm-hmm.
that. And Charlie Proctor, after riding all around locally, just low mountain, decided that Proctor Mountain should be the place to put this lift. Now, in going up to Proctor Mountain by automobile to the bottom of it, you went up a little grade, and it's still over there above Rude, if you was over in a little Rude, and then it ends right there. Road ends. From that point up to the foot of Proctor, a distance of about a half mile, they put this so-called J-bar lift, right? A part of Proctor operation. It was shaped just like this. This was a padded area developed about that big, around about a 2-inch pipe. Now that was level ground
Mm-hmm.
till you got to the foot of Proctor,
Mm-hmm.
to the Proctor Mountain, and got on the chairlift.
Okay.
But riding this thing, and the reason for it all, as I mentioned in the letter, was the ground was a little spongy between the top where the road ended and up to the foot of Proctor. A little spongy underground springs. There's some water up in there yet.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't develop a road.
Mm.
They didn't think, at that time anyway. So they had this J-bar lift. And the theory was it's suspended and hanging on a cable that you, as on a pair of skis, go along here and let it be in the middle of your back, pushing you at an angle, say like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get out between the little pole towers they had to support the cable. It'd sag, so it'd be up around your neck. See, people didn't compensate. They wouldn't lean back farther, or they wouldn't go ahead. So when they go, you'd be sitting on it, cussing it, or else it'd be riding around your neck as you went over
Or
the
you'd
tower.
have fallen out.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, or
And
you'd
then when
fallen out.
that's how. So that lift was the one that became Rude lift. The next year, took it down and built a road up there, put culverts in and everything, finished road. Then at that time they were going to, there was something talked about build a ski jump,
Mm-hmm.
because there was the Harriman Cup races were developing just about that time. Going to have 4-way event, cross country, jumping, slalom, and downhill. 4 events, combined, individual, all kinds of junk with it. But so we had to build a ski jump,
Mm-hmm.
and we built a 25-meter hill. That meant, just like any of them, you take off here,
Mm-hmm.
down along this slope, on the slope, for 25 meters is where you're supposed to be able to jump. Some of them that jump out here 50 meters on the flat, but you know it's scooping like this,
Mm-hmm.
and you control that by how far down you let them start. That's still the way it's done. But anyway, all the hardware that was on this J-bar lift, we took those things off, took the padding off, put a seat on there, a little wooden seat. I think they still have them, I'm not sure. Mainly to haul the jumpers up on that mountain a little way.
So that became the jumping mountain, more or
Yeah,
less.
that's what it was built for, 100%.
That is amazing.
And that was the next year. That was built in 1938, Rude Mountain. The oldest lift, of course, was Dollar and Proctor.
Okay.
Same age.
Okay, that clears that up. Were you there, Mrs. Seagle, when they tested the chairlift for the first time? Because I understand that
Did you write it? No,
was
you didn't, did you?
I didn't write it.
I wrote
there.
it.
I
It
didn't.
was a group of women who first
That's
tested
right.
it
It's got
out.
on the line.
Secretary Flo Law.
Flo Law.
Was
And Mrs. Wellman, he was the architect.
What was his first name?
WT was his
Yeah,
initial.
I don't. Bill, they called him, I think. Bill Wellman, and
A lot of
well,
engineers.
mostly the engineers' wives that were here. There are about 4 of them, and but I didn't go up on that one.
Ruth Van Sickle. I think.
Ruth Van Sickle.
She's still
was on
alive.
it. I
Right,
think
we
she's
talked
still
to
there.
her.
Yeah.
And the lift stopped. Something went wrong while they were up
I
on
know
it.
all about it because I had a responsibility. The lift, the first time the lift is, you were only about 4 to 5 feet above the ground at any time on either one of them, Dollar or half. They were built so they didn't want people to be scared. Well, going along like this, now we loaded it up, and I think it held about 50 chairs on one side, 100 chairs around one. It was around that neighborhood, you know. So we had it loaded, and the fusing of the electric system was way back where you turn in to go into the lodge at the present time. That corner, right there at that corner, we had a disconnect switches up there. And while they were building it, they didn't need what they ought to be fused up for. They had lighter fuses in. You've seen guys climb a pole and clip in something, maybe a little power company. So it was such a load, heavy load, that too light a fuse, it blew the fuses. Well, hell, nobody knew where the fuses was, and I didn't either. No, none of it. This is like a Saturday or something. The power company built the power line for them. They're down located in Haley. That was a fun. Anyway, time we got everybody work-wise, they would be sitting in these chairs up there. We'd go up and help them down. When dust was about that deep, just from the construction underneath. I can see Flo Law. Flo was about 5'10" tall. He told him, I'm going to take, come on, Flo, up now. Just like ours, and a great woman.
They were so furious that they talked them into going up on that. Lloyd Casanetto has to laugh at that because he was here then.
We have a
Also,
friend
and he
that built
still
the lifts.
laughs.
We're in charge of them all.
Yeah, he's
Is it
93 now.
He's 93 now.
years old.
Just as sharp as a tack. He's the guy I wish you could talk to as far as
Yeah,
lifts
that
are
would be
concerned.
wonderful.
The roundhouse he built, the chalets. So he was a railroad superintendent in this area,
What was his name again?
Castanetto, C-A-S-T-I.
T-H-E. C-A-S-T-H-E-N-E-T-O.
There, you got it?
Okay, I've got it.
Lloyd. first name.
Lloyd.
Well, that'd be interesting. Well, I understand that Flo Law had to be very much talked into making the second ride up once they figured out that
That's left a hog dog.
Who was
No,
the
wait, where's she
general
going?
manager at that time when Sun Valley
Didn't have
first?
anybody. This is all during the construction period.
Okay, and so was Pat Rogers the first?
No,
No.
Who was the first?
the first was the manager of the lodge. We only had the lodge. His name was Stevens, Ray Stevens, who but didn't know a thing about hotel operation really. He was one of the champion toboggan runners back at Lake Placid, and a friend of Mr. Averill Harriman's. And he had Ray Stevens come out to operate the lodge. Well, it was quite an operation. You know, it's winter time, and there's a lot of things to think about. He had a good housekeeper, had good chefs, French chef, all French, weren't it, Mom?
All
The
French.
waiters, top,
German waiters, German,
all men.
Austrian.
all men waiters. I mean, it was really high class.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, with the